All right, favorite topic, one of my favorite topics today. I'm so glad you could join us today. So last week we were talking about reigniting our passion for life. But it's really important to understand we were talking about that because we wanted to live consciously and fully. But that sometimes becomes a problem because we become an obstacle in our own path. There are a million reasons why it happens, but we find ourselves often blaming the circumstances of our life on other people, or on bad luck, or on this is just the way it's always been for me. Self-sabotage happens to all of us. We may not be consciously doing it, but it happens to all of us. How many of you have eaten something you know wasn't good for you? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of us have said something we shouldn't have said? Okay. How many of us have done something that was not physically good for us, but we still had a lot of fun doing it? Right. Okay, so we know, yes, 2 hands. I'm with you. 2 hands. So, I look at this as we know when something is probably not going to turn out perfectly for us, okay? We do it anyway. And that's okay as long as no one gets hurt and we're going to recover and it's okay, right? But when it's not okay is when we're constantly self-sabotaging to the point of not allowing our life to be full and happy. I have a perfect story to share. You may have already read it this past week. 24-year-old Venezuelan baseball player, Major League, Tucupita Marcano, infielder for Pittsburgh Pirates. He was suspended for life this week from baseball for placing 387 bets on baseball games. And by the way, many of those were on against his own team or about included his own team. Now, 24 years old, he made $720,000 a year and was positioned to have $14 million by 2028. When he signed up, this is what it said, that Major League Baseball explicitly prohibits players from betting any sum whatsoever upon a baseball game. The standard punishment for betting on any baseball game is a 1-year suspension. Betting on a game with which the bettor has a duty to perform results in a lifetime ban. Why would anyone with a future that bright self-sabotage, knowing what he knew, and ruin his entire career? Now, clearly he didn't think it through, and sometimes we don't, right? Sometimes we don't think through what the consequences of our actions are going to be. But the truth is, many times we know. We know better. Jeffrey and I joke about this in our house. It's probably not funny, but we do joke about it. We've had 21 surgeries between us. And we're always fighting about, you can't do that. You're not supposed to lift. Well, you can't do that. You're not supposed to that. And then we both do it anyway. And then it's who gets the ice pack and who gets the heating pad. Okay. I mean, really, okay, we know better. We know better. But we do it anyway. But that's conscious. We're actually arguing about it at the time. We're consciously aware. It's those times when you didn't know. Well, our level of self-sabotaging efforts may not ever be as extreme at what Marcano did. The truth is we lack the self-awareness necessary to make sure we take the right actions. And that's what we're talking about today. Eric Butterworth says we are living magnets constantly drawing to us the things, the people, and the circumstances that are in accord with our thoughts. Whatever's happening outside, we have considered it. We have played into it. If we want to break through the barriers, we have to be able to expand our consciousness so life actually works for us and not against us. Catherine Brookman wrote an amazing article back in 1975 for the Unity Worldwide newsletter. And this story really got to me. It's so interesting, and to think about it being so true, it scares me. She wrote, the other day a man told of seeing a bug on the tablecloth in a restaurant. That's not the difficult part, although it might have started for me there. He idly drew a circle around the bug with a pencil. The bug immediately became frantic. It went distractedly from one side to the other of the circle. But every time it did, it stopped at the penciled line and turned back, the prisoner of an impression, a mere appearance. And she wrote, this is closer to human behavior than we may like to think. She goes on to address how we're always setting boundaries for ourselves. We live in houses, we live in apartments, we live in condos. And she said we do that to get ourselves protected in our boundary areas. But she reminds us we live in infinity, where the sky is the limit. Endless, boundless, illimitable, she wrote. And she suggests that we first see over the boundaries we've set for ourselves, and she gives us this really simple explanation. She wrote, suppose you feel shy with someone you admire. Your inhibitions make your speech a bit stilted, and you give this false impression of your loving self, and you feel uncomfortable and unhappy about it. Who did this to you? Was it a parent who made you feel this way? And she says, well, while this is a popular view, it is shallow and completely unscientific. It is held only by those who are ignorant of the truth that you are a spiritual being, unlimited by what anyone could ever think or say about you. And she says that if you feel limited by what your parents or anyone else said, then you've accepted the hurt of all that their attitude implied, and you did not forgive it. It's still active in you. It still affects you because you haven't forgiven it. She said that very same behavior that you received could have made you aggressive rather than shy, because you haven't understood that barriers are not taken down by force or by bluster. They are taken down through forgiveness and through love. She says the whole idea is that it boils down to life being consciousness. And that's what Eric Butterworth teaches us. Life is consciousness. He said, you stand where you do today in your life, wherever that is, because of your consciousness, no one else's. I'm going to repeat that. You stand where you do today, wherever that is, because of your consciousness, not someone else's. And there is only one way you can come to stand anywhere else, and that's by changing your consciousness. Not by praying for others to change their consciousness. How many times do we say, well, we can only hope they get better? No, that's when we need to say, we can only hope we get better. This is serious. If a bug will absolutely not cross the line on a tablecloth, what do you think we're doing? We're a lot more powerful. What kind of limitations have we created for ourselves? And what stories have we told ourselves to the point of believing them? I truly believe everything in my life is because of me breaking barriers. And I still have barriers to break. But the truth is we have to be consciously doing it. We have to catch ourselves when we're saying those things that are limiting about other people and how they've hurt us and what's happened because of them. No one can make us feel anything we don't already feel. No one. Eric Butterworth says, if you wish to go up higher, you can do so, and there's no limit to the heights to which you can climb. But you must be transformed by the renewal of your thinking. He offers us this example. He says, if you're unemployed, you may feel a bit out of it. To turn this experience around, you have to get out of the out of it consciousness and get into the with it and in it feeling. He says you pray for work and get another job, but unless you've reversed the pattern of your consciousness that led to unemployment to begin with, you have only temporarily solved the problem. Stop thinking of work as something out there and get into the feeling that it is part of your nature, that work comes through you, not to you. In other words, if we don't like the conditions of our life or the experiences we're having, we have to embrace the attitudes and feelings that we imagine ourselves already there, having what it is we want to experience. Another deterrent for us in breaking through barriers is our tendency to attract drama into our lives. While we can't always control the dramas we encounter, we could be better at and be more proactive in minimizing dramas we can control. For example, let's say we're in toxic relationships, but we continue to choose to be actively engaged. That's called self-sabotage. You know it's not good for you. And we continue to do it. What does that say? Another one that causes drama. We continue to raise topics to people that we've repeatedly had conflicts with over those topics. And we think this time is going to be better. But it's never better. It's not only never better, it just digs the wound deeper. Constantly raising the past, constantly raising the same issues. We could have controlled it. That's where I get myself in trouble. I need to stop before I start. I hear it, train starts, it's coming out, gets to the lips, and I don't shut up. It's bad. I'd have a lot more happiness in my life if I would just seal it before it comes out. Choosing to call people who respond in the same way to us every single time, and then we expect them to be nicer. Why? Why do we do that to ourselves? And then we spend 2 days being upset and talking about it, right? Oh my gosh, it happened again. When will we learn? We had control. We chose to relinquish it. In that same 1975 Unity newsletter, there was a message from Silent Unity. I want you to remember I said 1975. This is what James Dillett Freeman wrote. bombarded from all sides with a constant reiteration of all the things that are wrong with us and the world. Many of us have let negative thoughts engulf us like a weltering sea. Now, I just want to pause for a minute and say, does that sound any different than this year, last year, the year before? We're still having the same conversations, right? Oh, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with the world? It's been happening for a lifetime. He says it's time we begin to stand against this tide. Unity came into being out of the realization that as we change our thoughts, we change our life. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. He said, how true this is. Our attitudes are all important in determining the conditions of our life. If we permit ourselves to dwell in a negative, depressed inward state, we will find our outer state taking much the same shape. This is not a dire and wicked world. This is God's bountiful universe, a world infinite in its potential, and ours to shape according to our faith and our capacities. And our capacities are great, for like the universe, we too are God's. He then speaks about how we've been given wonderful powers like intelligence, faith, imagination, love, the capacity not to lose heart in the face of difficulties, the ability to persist when we would rather give up. Where's Jeffrey B? Oh, Jeffrey B knows. We just had this conversation this morning, didn't we, about people? We've been given these powers so that we can bring into expression the divinely beautiful world of love and beauty and life that we are meant to live in. Now, none of us are ever going to progress if we stay stuck in the confines of the barriers that we've created. But I want you to get this in your head, because I was just telling Jeffrey this story yesterday in the car, that Eric Butterworth says that a wave is not part of the ocean. The ocean is part of the wave. And in the same way, we are not part of God. God is us. So as individuals, we have that power of the ocean in our wave. As individual people, we are not just people just dissipating back into that space. And he says that God expresses through us as the ocean in a wave. And we have to get to the place where we understand that. So I want you to think the rest of this day, am I the wave with the ocean in me? Or am I the ocean in the wave? God is the ocean in your wave. Let's review our lessons for today. Breaking through our barriers requires us to understand the following. The universe is limitless. Boundaries are set by us. Number 2, inspiration can set us free. Act on the inner wisdom that we are receiving. Number 3, drama can be avoided. Choose to act wisely. And number 4, live life fearlessly and get out of the way. The affirmation I chose for today is, I am free and unlimited. Let's say that together. I am free and unlimited. And the rest of the day, by the way, before I read this quote, I want you to be thinking about that bug on the table in the circle and how often you're stopping, and we're stopping ourselves at that line. The quote from James Dillett Freeman is, this is not a dire and wicked world. It's God's bountiful universe, a world infinite in its potential and ours to shape according to our faith and capacities. Let's take that in. God calling, by the way. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I said God was in us. So as we just pause for a moment, we just give thanks for the ability to know that we can and will break through barriers when we imagine ourselves in the circumstances and in the experiences that we wish to have. There is nothing, no one's words, no one's behavior, no one's belief about us that can stop us. And while it's wonderful to have people who advocate for us, even their advocating for us isn't enough. We have to believe it, see it, believe it, receive it, be open to it, and break through all of the barriers that are preventing our perfect, harmonious, healthy, beautiful life. And so it is. Thank you, God. Amen.